Okay, so let me talk to you about how this game works. I have it set up. This isn't how you're going to start, but I wanted to set it up so you could kind of see everything as it will look after you build your mountain. All right, so let me orient you to kind of the table space. The bottom row here is what's called the base camp. Okay, so if you imagine we're starting a summit of a mountain, right? So at the very bottom, we'd have a base camp, and then we're going to work our way up. When we start the game, all these mountain cards, they're not going to be visible at all. There's going to be none out there yet. They're all going to be in the deck. And we're going to deal ourselves 5 cards along the bottom of the board, and this is called our base camp. And then what we're going to try to do is build the mountain from the bottom up. And the way that you build the mountain is you place a card, and then you have to place a card to its right or left, and then you can start stacking. But you always have to have 2 cards below in order to start building your stacks up, right? And so as you do that, you could see I could start with these 2 cards, and then I could stack on here. But then I couldn't place this card until I had also stacked below it, essentially. You need to make sure they're supported by 2 cards below. The goal of the game in stacking this stack of mountain cards is to get a route for you to get from the bottom all the way to the top. And the routes are these blue paths, okay? And the blue paths go behind the signs, but you can see that some cards go in 4 directions. Some cards do even a little bit funkier stuff where they have kind of 2 coming in from the bottom of the cards. And the way that the path has to work is you have to come in from the bottom of the bottom row, and then you have to have an unbroken path that goes all the way up to the top card. It does not need to go out of the top card. The setup that I did before this game started, I have it go out of the top card. Aesthetically, that looked cool, but totally not required. So as long as you make it to the top on an unbroken path, you win, okay? So that's the goal. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to be drawing cards down into my base camp in this row, and then when I play a card, I'm only able to play the card on the left-hand side to the mountain. So this row of cards comes in order, and then the cards flow through. When I place this card into my mountain, all the next cards will shift over, and I'll draw a new card into the row. Now, that's one way you can play. You can play a card into the mountain, or if you don't want to play this card sitting in the prime spot, you can discard any of the other cards in your base camp to activate its ability. And so the ability is what's on these signs. Okay, so every card is unique. There's 17 different cards that are going to give you different abilities to let you do crazy stuff, and that's where the game kind of gets brain burning. So for example, this one says draw a card from the deck and remove it from the game. Do not use its ability. Well, it's like, yikes, that doesn't sound like a positive card. Some of the cards are going to do good things for you, and some of them are going to do bad. And when you're trying to build your mountain, sometimes you'll be able to discard some cards to kind of like pull something out of your hat. And sometimes you need to discard just because you don't want them in your base camp anymore. And so those are really our options. Either I'm playing a card to the mountain, or I'm discarding a card from my base camp and activating its ability. The last thing you can do is use this one special card that I have up here in the top right corner, this rescue helicopter. You get to use it once per game. It starts just off on the side, and if you choose to use it, it's going to remove itself from the game, but you get to take a card from your base camp and place it at the bottom of the deck, which can be super, super, super helpful towards the end of the game, right? So you might have a card that you're like, oh gosh, I can't use this yet, but I want to use it later in the game to either get me up to the final top, or maybe it's just a piece of junk card and you want it out of your hair. The rescue helicopter can get you out of that problem. And so you only get to do it once, so it's very valuable. You want to hold on to it as long as you can. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, now that I've given you kind of a brief overview, you'll see as I play that things are really straightforward. This game is part of the Simply Solo line that Button Shy has been doing, which has Food Chain Island and Ugly Griffin Inn. I think those are the only other 2 games in the solo. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. And they're supposed to be sort of light on rules, heavy replayability. And I think this one fits the bill, especially with the difficulty levels. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. And then I am going to go and draw my first 5 cards. And then I drew them in this order, so I'm gonna just place them this way, because you would draw from left to right. All right, so here's my first 5 cards. Okay, so remember, I'm gonna be building from the bottom of the mountain upwards. So my first goal is to make sure that in the first 4 cards, I have a path coming from the bottom of the card, right? So I got a pretty good draw because I have 3 cards here that all have paths coming from the bottom of the card, right? Now this one doesn't have a path going off the top, so this wouldn't really help me get higher. This one doesn't have a path going off the top. This one does. And so this is sort of the crux of the game, is you have to look at your base camp and start trying to figure out what the heck you're going to do and plan ahead multiple steps. So you know, and you might be able to junk some cards early in the build where maybe you don't really care about the bottom left corner, but later in the game when you're a couple rows up, you're not able to do that. Clean Sweep 38 says, this guy sounds familiar. Did you do the video on Death Valley? I did a video on Death Valley. Yeah, we played with the designer and Jason. We played Death Valley when that campaign was going live. I'm glad that that I have a recognizable voice. Okay. All right, so if you remember, I'm only able to play the far left card. That's the only one that I'm going to be able to play to the mountain. The rest of these I could discard and use their abilities, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this one. So my thinking here is that I can't use this to get higher, but I can start at the bottom, and so I probably want it kind of in the middle of the bottom row there, because I don't want to be on the outside, because I'm going to want to go up either to its left or to its right. Okay. Oh yeah, Clean Sweep, no problem. I understand you're having some technical difficulties, so you can only hear me, can't see me, so no worries. Okay, so now I move over all these 4 cards, and so this is sort of the crux of the game here, and I draw my next card face up. And that's my next base camp card. All right, so I really want to use one of these 2 to move upwards, if I can, off my bottom row. And this one doesn't do too much for me. But it's okay. I could kind of dump it for the time being. But then I got to think about my next row. So once I finish the bottom here, I'm going to be building the row right above it. And you can see that I don't have a lot. It's going to take me all the way to get to here to have a card that is coming from the bottom, right? So I really have to think this through and not screw it up. All right, so what I'm going to do is, I know I'm going to mess this up, but this is why we're going to have a good time. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put this one here. And you know, you might be telling yourself, you might be asking yourself, like, James, well, that's quite stupid. But hopefully it's going to work out. All right, so I'm going to put this guy here, and then here's what my next play is going to be. A question's coming in. Do you have to place the bottom row immediately left or right, or can you have a 1-card gap for later filling? That's actually a good question. I believe that you need to attach it when you're doing your placement. You can end up with gaps in the mountain as you go up. So you'll see if I make some plays later on where I remove a card from the mountain, which you can with certain card abilities, you can actually generate a hole in the mountain, and that's legal, but you have to fill that hole back in with your next played card. I think I'd have to go back and look. If Jason knows off the top of his head, if he doesn't, I'll take a look in the rules when we have a second here. But I think I have to place it either to the left or the right. I can't sort of place it 2 over on my first couple plays. All right. So now I'm actually going to do this. And so this will get me up to the next level. And that's okay for the moment. I'm going to move these over. Let's draw a table face up. Okay. All right, so here's where I was going to maybe do something weird. Okay. So you can see when you're trying to plan, this one will work, right? Perfect. Eventually I could get this guy on top and that'll work. This one will work too. But if I wanted this card to work for like getting me higher, it's not going left, right? So I would have to try to, you know, engineer something that would get me to the right and upwards. So I don't necessarily love that. Jason gave a clarification, which is good. Be in the bottom row. If there is already a card in the bottom row, it must go to the left or right. So perfect. So my gut feeling on that was correct. So you have to build, you don't have to build the whole bottom row. I could start building up right now. But if you do play in the bottom row, it needs to connect to an already existing card in that row. Okay. So what I'm going to do... I'm going to discard... Oh, man. Not great. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to discard this card to swap 2 cards that are touching on the mountain. Oh, no. Oh, so a good question from the Claire Mac. There is no invalid play. So I actually can do like this. Nothing, it doesn't have to connect. So, you know, you don't have to make a good path. That's not required. I could just junk a card down here on the bottom row and then keep building upwards. Totally fine. And then, you know, you can keep building upwards. The cool thing about this for the way the abilities work is you can actually build like a really bad path and keep going. And later in the game, be swapping cards to make the path better. So you actually, you play it all the way to the bone, right? So it might be that late game, you could use something like this one. Swap 2 cards that are touching on the mountain, and that might actually make your path work. So you can keep building kind of an invalid path, and you're not out until you're done with your cards. And yeah, Starburst Jazz Hand said abilities are viable moves. So you can keep doing abilities, I can keep doing discards, and try to get myself up to the top of the mountain here. All right, enough talk. The worst part of doing this live is trying to pay attention to what the heck I'm doing. All right, I'm gonna place this here. I lied. I said I was going to do an ability, but I'm not going to yet. All right, so that's my whole base. That's as good as I'm going to do on the base, all right? And so now you can see that I have a couple of viable moves going upwards, right? So I could place a card here. I could place this one here. And those are only my 2 ways up. You know, this one could go right here or right here. And so, you know, that's going to be what we're attempting to do here. All right, so I don't love this card. So my planning is not great. So I'm going to discard this card to, I'll give you a zoom in here. Discard the front card and activate its ability. Okay, so essentially I'm going to discard this card, and then I'm going to discard the front card and activate its ability, which is choose a card on the mountain and remove it from the game. Do not use its ability. All right, so I'm going to discard this one as well. And then I get to choose a card on the mountain and remove it from the game. So the one I'm going to remove from the game is this one. And so to remove it from the game, I'm just going to, you know, put it over here. It's gone. Forget about it. Okay. So now I'm going to... yes, holistic developer on the mountain equals cards already placed. Base camp does not count as on the mountain. Good question. All right. Ooh, the Yeti card. All right. Okay, so let's start moving up, if we can. All right, let's see. So if I did sort of this, I don't really have a way to use any of my cards to head upwards. Man, this is a mess. I am in a mess. Holy mackerel. See if I get any good abilities to get me out of this trouble. Choose a card on the mountain, remove that card from the game without using its ability, and replace it with this card. Okay, so we can switch a card on the mountain with this card. Increase the size of the base camp by 1. So this is kind of cool. If you place this Yeti card, it will let you have 6 cards in base camp instead of 5. And then this one directly to the left of it, you reduce the size of base camp by 1. So it would reduce my base camp to 4, and it stays for the whole game. So it's kind of like increasing and decreasing visibility on the mountain. That's kind of the metaphor they use, which is cool. But I'm not going to discard either of those, hopefully, because I'd like to use these two. Let's see. If I did something like... no, that's not going to work. Man! I have gotten myself into a pickle here. All right. All right, I mean, I'm going to have to pull... I hate doing this, but I'm going to have to pull the ripcord on this whole base camp. I'm going to shuffle all cards from base camp into the deck. So I'm going to discard this, and we're going to return all of these cards to the deck. And then we're going to shuffle it. And then we're going to draw back. And we're going to see if that gets us a better base camp to do something with. All right. Vorpal Mike, my compatriot on Vorpal board, says, I would be doing worse, James. Thank you for the positive vibes, Mike. And then Claire Mack says, I'm already confused. No, we're doing great. I swear, we're doing a good job. Okay, so yeah, things are a little bit more interesting here, right? So we can, let's see if we can get something going, right? So if I did something like this, and then this, right? See, that's getting me up to the next tier. And then that would get me this far. All right, so I before I do that, let me think this action through a little bit. Yeah, I like that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just not going to overthink it, because if I do, I'm going to get lost and I'm going to lose track of what the heck I'm doing. So why don't we do that? There we go. All right, so that's pretty good. All right. So, and I probably should have drawn, drawn up. And Claire says, I love this software. Besides not appearing to have keyboard shortcuts for the common commands, it seems pretty intuitive. Thank you very much. So we do have a bunch of keyboard commands. We have things to let you draw cards by number keys and rotate cards and flip cards and pick them up. We have keyboard shortcuts for all that stuff. I'm drawing cards face up so you all can see them. That's why I have to use the mouse to do the drawing. Okay, so let's see. What's the next thing I can do here, gang? Okay. So something like this on the next row could be good to get me upwards. And I'm not actually playing these cards. I'm just sort of seeing what I might be able to do here. So I don't have a good way of getting up unless I do this, okay? So you can see that you got to worry about sort of the way the cards overlap. So that's good. And then this card could kind of finish it off for me. So I actually think I think I have a win here. Let's see. So if I do this, and then let's move these over, and I draw to table face up. Cool. And then I'm going to put this one here, which these are all just kind of waste cards. And then this one here, well, I'll play by the rules. I'll draw my cards. Okay, cool. All right, so then this one goes here, which gets me, a path up to the main. And so what's interesting is when you want to go to the very top, you got to make sure that your path up is on the right-hand side of the card, if it's the left card, or on the left-hand side of the card, if it's the right card. So that does really limit, so for example, this one would only work if you played it on the right-hand side. Okay, so let me move this over. And this is my last card. Cool. And then, okay, so if I just do this, and then I do this, yes, we've done it. Okay, so let's review it real quick, right? So I could start on either of these bottom cards, move up, go over here, go up, go over here, go up, go up. We did it, okay? And remember, you don't have to go out of the top of the top. So this is a win condition. I did it, right? So that's good. You know, you saw some of my thought process in the early stages. Now, winning at level 1, I found to be pretty easy, and I think that it's well designed, this game, because like level 1 is kind of the tutorial. You play it a few times and you're like, oh, I can beat this. There's enough kind of variability in the abilities. And with your 5 cards in the base camp, you get to see a lot. So you have a lot of information that lets you kind of make moves. Okay, so let's talk about going up in levels, right? So level 1 was just build this darn thing, get up to the top. Level 2 is your visibility is reduced, so you only get 4 cards in your base camp. All right, so already that's harder, but we're not going to stop there because I want to make it really challenging. Level 3 is that every row cannot have any repeats of any of the major features on the card. Now, what major features on the card is this is a mountain card, caves. See that little cave? And you can tell by the icon. So there's like a little mountain or cave icon there. This one is a tree or forest. This one is a camp. So you can see the little tent on there. There's another tree. There's a tent. There's another cave. And then there's the Yeti, that little Yeti face there. And then a cave. This is a lake. And this is a tree. So the way that you win on level 3 is to not have any repeats in any of those rows. So the 4 row, the 3 row, the 2 row, the 1. You can't have a repeat on 1. But you can't have any repeats in any of those rows. Now, I just noticed that I beat level 3. so that's kind of funny. This solution that I came up with is a win at level 3 as well. Now, I did that by accident. I wasn't paying attention. But generally in practice, that doesn't happen very frequently. Level 4 is the slopes along the sides here. So this diagonal and this diagonal also can't have any matches. So you can see that I have 2 cave ones on this slope and I have 2 tree ones on this slope. So I failed level 4 with this mountain. And now you start to think like how many things you need to try to keep in your head when you're trying to beat at a higher level, which makes it a lot more complicated. And then level 5, I'm actually going to double check here because I want to make sure I get level 5 right. Level 5 is the number of climbers. Okay, so level 5 is you need to have less than the height of the mountain. My mountain is height 4, and I'll tell you why the height matters. You need to have less than the height of the mountain in the number of climbers on your path. All right, so let's follow my path, right? There's none. Now there's, I went this way. Okay, there's 1 climber. There's 2 climbers. There's 3 climbers. Okay, so I actually had 3 climbers on my path. But if you make too wide of a turn, you know, like if your path is kind of going all over the place, you end up with more climbers on your path. So to beat level 5, all of those things I talked about are cumulative. You have only 4 cards in your base camp. You can't have any repeats in any of the rows. You can't have any repeats in the slopes, and you need to fulfill the climber limit. And so you got to try to do those all at the same time. So level 5, I haven't even tried, but we're going to try level 3. So I'll send everything back into the deck. If anyone has any questions about this, before I throw everything back into the deck, if anyone has any questions about this round, let throw them out now, and I can answer them before we start another one, because we have a good example on the board right now. I'm just going to sit silently, and I'm going to look at you guys. Got any questions? Mayari says, oh, you don't need a card in the base camp to the bottom row. You just need a path in the bottom row to go down. Mayari, that's exactly right. The base camp is, the way I have it laid out on screen here, it's like really close to the mountain because I wanted the cards to be kind of bigger. But yeah, you don't have to connect from the base camp to the mountain. Mountain's just got to have a one path going out of the bottom. So, does Scott Alms ever sleep? That's a great question. Okay, so I went and looked at his Board Game Geek profile, and I saw it was like 146 games or something. If anybody is sitting at their computer, which I assume that you kind of have to unless you're on your phone, check Board Game Geek. Jump over there and do a search for him. Just the amount of games that man has been involved in as a designer is totally wild. Okay, so I'm gonna throw these back in the deck, and I'm gonna get started. Question for Oblong X Oblong X. Can you use any ability on your mountain or just the card you play? Good question. So you can only use abilities on cards in the base camp unless you're using an ability that lets you use an ability in the mountain. So, for example, I have to discard a card from my base camp to activate its ability. This one says choose a card on the mountain, remove that card from the game without using its ability, and replace it with this card. So if I wanted to use this, I would, let's just, for example, say I'm going to remove this one from the game, goodbye, and then this one moves into the hole. I can't choose cards on the mountain to use their abilities, but there are some abilities that I could play out of my base camp row that let me use the abilities on the mountain. Hopefully that was clear. Let me see if I can find an example of what I'm talking about. Let's see if any of these... Doesn't look like any of these that I have on the... Oh yeah, here we go. So here's one that says choose a card on the mountain, discard it, and activate its ability. So there are cards that let you use the abilities of the cards on the mountain, but you can't do that as a standard action. Claire Max says 148 games for Scott. Totally unbelievable. So here's my favorite ability. I didn't get to use it, but rotate a card on the mountain 180 degrees. So you probably saw that while I was trying to build upwards, I started to think like, oh man, I got to have this path on the left-hand side of the card. Well, that can totally, make the card a completely different thing. I could just grab this one, and all of a sudden, it's it's going upwards instead of downwards, which is very powerful if you can plan ahead really well, which I'm not really great at by a rule. But if you had a card in your base camp that looked like, oh, if only it was upside down, it would work better, and you also had this card in your base camp, you could play that card and know that later on you're going to be able to rotate it. But that requires a level of forethought that I'm not particularly awesome at. Thanos 2001, it's going good. How are you? Good to see everybody. It's been too long that I've been streaming. You've been busy. Okay, so I'm going to return everything to the discard. Or, excuse me, I'm going to return all the discard, and I'm going to shuffle this thing. And I didn't get to use my helicopter. I want to show the helicopter, but I bet in this round I'm going to use it because this one's a lot harder. So I only have 4 cards now, remember. I only get 4 cards in my base camp, which you think, oh yeah, no big deal. It's a big deal. It really screws you up. Okay, so already we have some problems, okay? We have 2 mountain cards right out of the gate. And so we know that we have to do something or we're going to lose, or we're going to have to wait and hope for a late card that lets me change things. You can leave yourself in a losing condition for as long as you want, and then later on you might be able to get a card that lets you pull one of those cards out, for example. Perfect timing, Dustin. Gosh, it's like we planted you in the audience. Dustin Dobson says, does the game end in a loss only once you run out of cards in the deck? Yes, that is correct. So you can still kind of work your way through base camp. But here's the thing. You can't discard the front card of your base camp. So you can still do actions off the other cards in your base camp, but you know, when you draw in, you can't use that front card. Like, let's say I had a full mountain. I couldn't, you know, use this one because it's the leftmost one. The only action I can take with that leftmost card is to put it onto the mountain. And for Button Shy fans, Dustin is the designer of one of my favorite Button Shy games, Skulls of Sedlec. So it's good to see you, Dustin. All right. So yeah, so now I have a problem. I have these two. Oh man, guys. All right, so this is we're gonna see a really interesting one, because I can't actually discard and use this card's ability right now. I think because there are no cards on the mountain. So I'm just gonna. My ruling on this is that I don't think I'm allowed to play this. We're just gonna go with that, and we're gonna see if we can pull it off. All right. So I'm gonna start with playing this one. I got some good, you know, start from the bottoms of the mountain here, and then I'm going to let's move these over. See what else we get. I mean, I could have used the rescue helicopter right out of the gate, but I'm gonna hope that I can like clean this up later. That would be pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to put this here. The eagle-eyed viewer might notice that I have a card here that's going to let me do some swapping potentially, and so maybe I will do that. Okay, so I'm going to discard this card right here that says swap a card in the base camp with a card on the mountain. And so I'll discard this one. And I'm going to swap. I'm going to swap this one with the Yeti card. And the reason I did that is because I have a lake and a tree here. And if I want to build out my bottom row, I don't want to hit this. I don't want to hit this cave again. So I want to keep these two front loaded. All right. Gosh, another cave. Yikes. All right. So I'm going to do this. And what's kind of interesting is the Yeti card. So Yeti card's kind of powerful to play its ability because it increases the size of your base camp for the rest of the game. But there's only one of them. So what's cool is that when you're playing at higher difficulties, and you need to have variation in each row, the Yeti card becomes really valuable because if you get rid of that Yeti, that's a whole class of card type that you just threw out. And so having the Yeti in the bottom row, the 4 row where I have them right now, is actually helpful because that's a row where I need to get 4 unique card types. Okay. Enough talk. All right, yeah, let's do it. Let's put this here. Okay, so we got a safe bottom row for the moment, but we're about to create problems for ourselves, of course. Why not? Okay, let's see what we can do, gang. So I wish I actually had paid attention to how many of each of the types of cards are in the deck, because I already have discarded a camp, and so throwing away another camp seems kind of dangerous given that I need to have sort of variation in each of my rows, so I might not want to do that. Oh man, how am I going to get upwards here? It's kind of a bummer, isn't it? I don't have anything that goes up other than this one, but that would require me to... Okay, all right. So... how about we do this? Okay. And then... do this. All right, so... All right, so I'm going to discard this one. Discard the front card and activate its ability. All right, so I'm going to discard this, and then that lets me discard this card and activate its ability, which is swap 2 cards that are touching on the mountain. So I'm going to discard this, and now I need to swap 2 cards that are touching. So this is going to be my path here. So I'm going to swap this. Yeah, we're going to do that. We'll see. We'll see if this works out. Virtuous. Music is a bit overdramatic for this style of game. You know, you're right. When I started, this is from Tabletop Audio, which is what I always use for the music because I love that site. When I started it, it was very jaunty and kind of like we're going on an adventure. And then like halfway through the track, it becomes like this really kind of almost military theme. I didn't realize that when I started. All of the mountain climbery type music on Tabletop Audio was all like ice dragons or like Yeti horror or something. It was all these really kind of scary ones. So I didn't find a good one in time. Why do all the cards in a row have to be different types? Oh, so we're playing a higher difficulty level. So at level 3, you have to make each row unique. Each card. Okay. Question. A couple questions coming in. Could you swap the 2 mountains instead? I could have, yes. Yeah, I definitely could have, yes. And then for the last play, is it required to perform the ability of the first card? My reading is that yes, it is required to. I think you have to fulfill the entirety of the sign if you can. So I believe that that's required. Yeah, Mike says should have used Rat Battle. Rat Battle is my favorite. Rat with a T. Rat Battle is my favorite song on Tabletop Audio. I love it. So there's a plug for Tabletop Audio. Okay, so here was my thought, right? So I was thinking I would do this to get myself up to the 2 level. And then we're going to have to really, yikes, try to engineer something because we don't have anything that's headed upwards, which is okay. We still have our rescue helicopter, but oh man, okay. Okay, we're gonna, yikes. This one might not go great. Okay. Oh man. Holistic Developer says, or Rat Battle with 2 T's if you like 80s heavy metal. You can't get away with that pun. Holistic Developer. No, thank you. Rat. Ay. Okay. So, gang, I don't have a great... Oh, man. So the best I'm going to be able to do is somehow build myself up to this action, okay? To get me up to the top level. So I need to start doing a little bit of scrambling. I could play this card here, but I want to do a little bit of planning to maybe this is interesting. Take a card from the mountain and place that card in another valid location on the mountain. Well, that's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Huh. Oh, that's a bummer. It would have been nice to just get my way right up right there. It doesn't look like I have anything great right now. Alright, so yeah, this card's going to be useless up here too. Oh, man. Alright, so if I did something like this, right, this would keep my row good. Okay, we're really playing with fire here. All right. Okay, so I can swap any 2 cards that I want on the mountain with this one, which is what I was trying to maybe do here, is figure out something that would let me move upwards in the right direction here. But I actually don't have any cards that, you know, I could do something like this. Oh, man. Question from Thanos. So you blocking that tree location isn't a problem. Oh yeah, this one. If you're talking about this one right here, it's totally okay to have your paths not work. You don't have to create them. All you have to do is get one path that gets all the way to the top. So I can do all this sort of ending path stuff. That's no problem. Okay. All right. How am I gonna do this, folks? So what I would like to do, I just have nothing that actually does what I want. I have nothing that does what I want it to do. Okay, so this one, take a card from the mountain and place that card in another valid location on the mountain, right? So I could do, like, I could do something like, no, that's not even good either. I need to have something that comes up into the right position on the bottom. This one does it. No, it doesn't, because it needs to sit here. Man. You know, this one, like, I could do this eventually if I can get this up here, right? So I have these 2 cards in front of me to deal with. Yeah, so I could actually discard. All right, so let's see if this will work. If I discard this card, take a card from the mountain, place that card in another valid location on the mountain. All right? So I'm going to discard this, and I'm going to take the Yeti, and I'm going to put the Yeti here. All right? So that's a valid location. And then I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to draw face up. Yuck. Okay. And then... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to count that as allowed, because I'm the boss. And then I'm going to place this one here, because you have to refill in any holes that you create. That's fine. I love it. Come on, give me something good. Okay. And then if I do... All right, we got to think this through, right? Because if I do this, that will get me up to the top, which is great. And then this card would win it for me, okay? So let's see if I can do something here. All right, so I think I actually might be able to do this. So if I do this one, right? So choose a card on the mountain and remove it from the game. Do not use its ability. Okay, so I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna discard this card. All right, and I'm gonna choose. Oh no. I wanted to get rid of this one and replace it with this one because they're both caves. I wanted to get this card out of here. Oh no. All right, hold on. I'm going to pull this one back out. I got to think about this again. I really blew that. Let's see. I saw the chat going here. Hold on. Get to the chopper. Tagmeyer says, I don't have data on every single placement on every draw, but there's a point mid-late game where you may realize you're stuck. Yeah, I feel like I might be in that position now. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I think I'm okay. All right, so I'm gonna discard this one, right? This lake, and I'm gonna say choose a card in the mountain and remove it from the game. Do not use its ability. All right, cool. I'm gonna remove the Yeti. That goes in the trash. He gets removed from the game. Okay. All right, gang. I think we're all right. All right. Okay. So then I'm gonna place this one here. Then I'm gonna place this one here. Spladow! Yes! We did it. All right. So what that allowed me to do is I got lake, tree, cave, camp, rock, camp, lake, tree, rock, tree. We did it. All right. So we beat level 3. Yes, that was really close. I thought I was out of there. I forgot about the Yeti. What does the helicopter do? So the helicopter, oh, here it is. You can use this once per game. It's just kind of, it's like your get out of jail free card. You remove the card from the game entirely, and then you get to choose a card in the base camp and place it at the bottom of the deck. So if you're like in that situation that Dustin and Jason were talking about, where you get stuck, you can use this to kind of get a card in the front of your base camp out of the way. Or maybe if you're really smart, you might want to like throw it at the bottom of the deck because you want it to come up late game. But that seems like maybe too complicated to strategize that far in advance. Okay, so that was good. I actually I'm pleasantly surprised by my ability to wriggle my way out of that one. So